So many good things have been said, and it's been quite a long journey, 7 years, and the governor this time around is just talking about how the state plans to consolidate on growth, on the gains so far, and of course there's talk about accelerating the growth. Now we know that so many industries have come to Ogun State as a result of many of the reforms that have been made, especially around incentives, especially around the ease of doing business. We understand that Ogun State has done quite remarkably in that department. So speak to this year's theme, the specific sectors that the state government is going to be consolidating some of its successes.
Okay, so we decided to emphasize agriculture, industry and technology this time around. Agriculture has been something of a recurring theme for Ogun State. I think I've said before in different occasions that given the raw potential that we have in terms of our land mass, our climate types and our proximity to markets, it's an area that we have long felt has not given us the return that it really has the potential to do. So therefore it keeps coming up at investor forums because we kind of need to continue engaging and seeking out partners and devising the appropriate framework to attract those partners. It remains central on this occasion, and I think we're beginning to see the green shoots of the kind of agricultural sector that we want in Ogun State. It actually requires a lot of analysis and organizing. It's not simply having the raw talent, as it were. It's the work that you need to do to harness all of those variables. One of the panels earlier was talking really about the imperative, I think it was the MD of Nestle, talking about the imperative of aggregation. Now you can have a lot of farmers, you can have them growing a lot of stuff, but if they're not together, it's very difficult to sort of efficiently improve the yield and develop a value chain around what it is that they're doing. So these are some of the things that we're really focusing on now to help us to sort of bring the return on our efforts to a more robust level. And the same goes for industry. Ogun State is the largest industrial hub in the country, hosts the largest industrial hub in the country. But yet we still have a great deal of unemployment in the state. We still have a great deal of linkages from sort of maybe the core heart of a manufacturing sector to some of the supporting cast that would come alongside that. So those are some of the things that we are looking at as opportunities to accelerate growth going forward, even though we already have a relatively robust base.
Now, I asked the Minister of, the Commissioner rather of Agriculture earlier, and I asked her, agriculture it's a labor-intensive sector, and I know that it's also a key focus of the government. If you want to create jobs, that's a good place to start. And I know there's so many reforms, so much has been done in that sector. So why do you think you haven't seen those numbers in terms of the job numbers, the kind of numbers that you want? What else needs to be done? Do you need more momentum for it to gather pace?
I think it really comes down to organization of the sector. So for example, if you have a number of smallholder farmers that are fragmented in their location, that have maybe relatively inefficient practices, maybe their yields are still relatively low if you compare them to another country that's growing the same product, the return on their effort is low. And of course, if you don't have the value chain, then once you grow the product, then the ability to actually get it to the person that needs it, and that whole process that creates jobs, it means that you're missing that whole part of the story. So fine, I can grow cassava, but if I grow cassava in a cluster of other cassava growers, and I have farming practices that give me an optimal yield, and then I have an arrangement with offtake and processing, and I can make starch, and I can make flour, and I can make products from those products, then you start to get a real expansion of the effect of the farming activity. And those are the things I think that Ogun State has been less effective in to date, that we are working very hard on now. Thankfully, we're partnering with the World Bank, who has kind of helped us to really shape and streamline our efforts in that regard.
I was going to mention the World Bank too, $350 million US, also the DFI. Has also pitched in. So from the revenue point of things, the state has been able to grow its internally generated revenue from 730 million to over 7 billion. But obviously you still need that private cash. So yes. Tell us about the support you're getting from the World Bank and how, you oversee the budget, how you've been able to go from year to year funding key projects.
Well, the support we're getting from the World Bank actually is both technical and financial. The financial is yet to kick in. The technical almost precedes that, because you first of all have to prepare the program before the program is funded. So we're at that stage of preparing the program. So what the World Bank has helped us to do is to walk through where we are currently and where we want to get to, and the steps that are in between. It's very difficult when you have a group of people maybe that have been working on a problem in the only way they know how for a long time, without a fresh infusion of know-how and ideas. It's very difficult to get, to expect a better outcome. But helping us to prioritize the crops that we want to focus on, and to think through why we want to prioritize those crops. I always say that Ogun State, yes, we have a lot of agricultural land and we have good climate, but we also have a lot of competition for our land because of where we are. So do you do farming, or do you provide housing for neighboring states? I mean, those are real questions. But when you make that decision about what you're going to do and why, you then have to walk through all of the pieces of information that you need in order to be able to have a policy intervention that is effective. So the World Bank has been and continues to be very helpful in providing us with that kind of technical support to get that done. When that is now done, actually what then happens is, yes, the government needs to spend some money to prepare things. But ultimately, if you are a private sector person, the sector has kind of been de-risked. The cost of entry has been somewhat reduced. If we take that alongside the adjustment or the improvement of our business environment reforms that makes it easier for people to access land, to obtain title, and so on. We take that alongside an agricultural policy framework that lends itself to inviting private partners, then suddenly the appeal for a private sector party for coming into Ogun State is very different from what it would have been if we hadn't done all of those things. So we're not yet at the stage where we are spending big money on agriculture. We're preparing to be at that stage, and most of the funding that we would undertake would be to encourage private parties and to organize the existing smaller scale farmers in a more efficient manner.
Okay, so what is it, for this year's forum that you want investors, because I imagine they're probably first-time investors or will-be investors who are also attending, what you want them, the state government wants them to go away with this year?
Well, for example, in both agriculture and industry, there will be a clear articulation of what Ogun State is doing and where they're at and where they're trying to go. So what that does is it kind of puts our cards out on the table and says, okay, this is who we are and where we are, and this is where we need to go, and this is where we are working, and this is where we would like you to work, or to partner with us. So I think just articulating with some clarity the opportunity, and then also initiating conversations, because there are many different people in the room. Clearly people are only hearing the panelists, but beyond that there are people in the audience, there are people that maybe only there for a section of the program, but it's about that cross-fertilization that happens, even if it's over lunch, that enables the sort of germinating of real possibilities on how to engage with the state. So that's really what we want people to come away with, to understand who we are, what we're trying to achieve, what we are doing, and what we would like other stakeholders to come and join us to do.